If you're from the agricultural community or know somebody that is, you need to hear this. Here we are past another year of uncertainty, financial pressure, unpredictable weather, equipment that broke probably at the worst possible time, and probably a year of a lot of decisions that kept you up at night. And if I had to guess, you're probably exhausted. And this isn't just physically. And here's the part that we don't want to address. The exhaustion that comes from mental and emotional, the kind of tired that sleep just doesn't fix. I'm Suzi. I'm a licensed clinical therapist with over 27 years in my profession. And I want to talk about what nobody else is saying. And this is the way that we've been approaching emotional health in agriculture and the way that it hasn't been working. The statistics are brutal. And if you don't know them, I'm going to share them with you anyway. Farmers die by suicide at rates 3.5 times higher than the national average. 3.5 times higher. Rural communities tend to face way more isolation than urban America can even comprehend. Financial stress is constant, so we're looking at commodity prices, land costs, equipment expenses, now more than ever in our country. You're working 80+ hour weeks with no days off and probably no relief in sight. Work never ends. Generational conflict can be very heightened. It can tear families apart over succession planning or really just the lack thereof. And mental health resources, they're hours away, they are booked out for months, they're staffed by people who have never set foot in an agricultural environment. And not only that, there's a lot of stigma attached to it. We tend to keep talking about resilience and self-care, like the problem is that you're not trying hard enough, and really that isn't the problem at all. The problem is we've been trying to teach emotional intelligence or stress management skills to areas and people who were never given the psychological infrastructure to build those skills on in the first place. So let's think about this from an agricultural or farm perspective. Okay, think about your farm for a second. You would not plant crops without preparing the soil first. You wouldn't build an outbuilding or construct a barn without pouring a really solid foundation. And you wouldn't run equipment, just like I don't run my car, without maintaining the engine or the mechanics of it, right? So why are we treating emotional health like it doesn't need that same type of infrastructure? This is what I've spent 3 decades learning in my clinical practice. You can't manage stress effectively if you do not build on things such as self-awareness. You cannot set boundaries if you've never clarified your values. You can't navigate conflict if you haven't built an internal compass, and you cannot separate your self-worth from your farm's performance if your entire identity is tangled up in yields and market prices. This is where the Suzi method comes in, and this is what the Suzi method addresses. The foundation that has been missing. This is evident in our community across the nation. This is not theory. It's not feel-good fluff. It's a psychological infrastructure that allows everything else to actually work. When you start building self-awareness, you're going to understand what you're actually feeling and why, instead of just trying to push it aside or push through and hoping that the overwhelm doesn't crack you. Values clarity, knowing what matters most to you so decisions align with who you are instead of who you were created or formed or shaped to be or who you think you should be. Building an internal compass so you're developing a reliable guidance system that works when everything external feels really stressful and chaotic. And also boundaries, protecting your emotional health, your relationships, and your capacity to keep going without completely burning out. Listen, when this infrastructure exists, the rest of everything becomes possible, doable, and fixable. Communication is going to improve. It just will. Conflict becomes way more manageable. Isolation is going to decrease, and help seeking stops feeling like a stigma or failure. Here's what I know about agricultural communities after years of this work. You don't need someone telling you farming is hard. You live it. You have done it, been there, and you don't need toxic positivity or someone just saying, just think positive. You need tools that work in the real world. When the bank is calling, when the weather is destroying your crops, when your family is fighting, when succession planning becomes a huge issue, when you haven't slept in days. You do not need emotional health resources designed for people with 9-to-5 jobs and health insurance that covers sessions. You need community-based systems that function without inside infrastructure. This is so important. You don't need someone who doesn't understand agricultural telling you how to feel. You need evidence-based strategies delivered by someone who can really respect your reality and your culture at the same time. So here's where we get into the down and dirty. Let's propose for 2026 that we stop treating symptoms and we start building those solid foundations, bringing emotional health literacy into agricultural communities, not just as a luxury or something nice to have, but essential, necessary infrastructure, the same way that you would treat soil health or equipment maintenance. Let's normalize conversations about emotional health the same way we talk about market conditions or weather patterns. Let's build peer support networks so farmers aren't isolated. They're not suffering alone. They're not wondering if they're the only ones struggling. We need to reduce the suicide rate that's been devastating our agricultural communities, not with just awareness campaigns. There's enough of those. They don't change anything, but with actionable psychological tools that people can begin to use immediately that work, that are sustainable. This year really can be different, but only if we choose to build on what's really missing. If you're a farm organization, a cooperative, an extension office, an agricultural association, and you're ready to bring real mental health infrastructure into your community, we need to talk. If you're a farmer or a rancher or an agricultural worker who's really exhausted and tired of barely holding it all together, and you want to actually build something that's sustainable and that works, this work is for you. If you're a family navigating generational conflict, financial stress, communication breakdowns, there are tools that can help you get through this without destroying each other in the process. This is possible. Again, I'm Suzi, and this is the Suzi method. This is the year that we need to stop accepting agricultural communities that have to suffer at rates that nobody else in our country is going to ever tolerate. Let's build the infrastructure that has been missing, it is missing, and we need to start talking about and addressing the hard stuff. You can go to thesuzimethod.com, click on the agricultural tab, and connect with me. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. We need to make 2026 the year that emotional health becomes foundational in agricultural, not just optional.